And so when we talk about nitric oxide, I've heard you describe it as the molecule of longevity.
For sure.
Why do you say that? Why do you say that?
Well, again, longevity is this emerging field that's driven by how do we live longer? How do we increase our health span and longevity? Right? Because I think we can all agree that nobody wants to live to be 100 years old if we spend the last 25 of that years incapacitated in a diaper, unable to get out of bed, right? That's not living. So when I look at longevity, I look at kind of what are the hallmarks of longevity? What defines longevity? Right? How do we live longer, healthier life free of disease? And really, there's three objective measures. There is stem cells. This whole field of regenerative medicine is based on mobilizing our own stem cells or deploying stem cells throughout the body to repair and replace dysfunctional cells.
So these stem cells are cells that can basically act as like band-aids, repairs for any part of our body.
Well, we call them pluripotent stem cells. So mean that, and some of these are bone marrow derived. Some of these are what we call stromal vascular fraction that you get from the adipose tissue or the fat.
Pluripotent would mean
Pluripotent means
multiple
that
powers.
stem cell can go and become a neuron. That stem cell can go to the heart and become a functional myocyte. It can go and become a macrophage or an immune cell, white blood cell. So pluripotent means it can become many things, whatever it needs to be. In some cases, the amount of stem cells present in our bone marrow get smaller with age. The number of cells decrease with age. But fortunately or unfortunately, the older we get, the more fat we deposit. And so we have a number of stem cells in our fat, so we increase the number of stem cells in our fat. So the problem with aging and longevity is when we lose the ability to mobilize our own stem cells. We can't repair and replace dysfunctional cells. So we have what we call zombie cells or senescent cells. They're there, but they can't do their job. They're dysfunctional. And that's what leads to age. Number two, it's telomeres. And telomeres are the ends of the chromosomes of our DNA. And so they're the very end. So it's like the tips of the shoestrings, right, that prevent the shoestring from fraying.
Yeah.
And those are like the telomeres. So as long as you have a functional telomere and it prevents it from getting shorter, then shorter telomeres, shorter lifespan. Longer telomeres, longer lifespan. So when telomeres get shorter, it decreases our lifespan and longevity. And then the third one is mitochondrial function. Like every age-related chronic disease, you have a lower number of mitochondria per cell, and the mitochondria that are present aren't functional. So you get what's called an uncoupling of the electron transport chain inside the intermitochondrial membrane, and you can no longer effectively produce cellular energy or ATP. So nitric oxide is the foundational longevity molecule because nitric oxide is the signal in the body that tells our stem cells to mobilize and differentiate. Without nitric oxide, you have less number of circulating stem cells. Nitric oxide activates the enzyme telomerase, which prevents telomere shortening. Without nitric oxide, you don't get activation of telomerase, telomeres shorten. And then nitric oxide is the signal in the cell that tells the cell, I need more mitochondria, and I need these mitochondria to be more efficient, generate more cellular energy with less oxygen. So when you restore nitric oxide, you address all three aspects of longevity. And there's no other molecule in the body that does that.